Welcome everybody into your first breakout session. Seems like I pretty much know everybody here, but if you don't know me, I'm Dr. Nolan Bodah, and I'm going to teach you how to your practice. So before we get started, oh great, Justin Jory in the building, everybody.
Are all the F words out of the way?
Not yet, brother. Not yet. No, well, let's get started. We're going to get a little audience participation. So I want to discuss what is the difference between a manager and a leader, all right? So we're going to start off. I want everybody to just start shouting out some words, phrases, things that come to mind when we think of a manager, all right? So let's start with manager, some participation. Who's up first?
Authority.
Okay, authority, yeah.
Manages tasks.
Tasks, like that. Boss. What else do managers do? Controls. All right, good. Responsible, good. So the way we see it, managers handle things like budgets, forecasts, scheduling, right? In our practices, these are obviously the practice managers. Their eyes are on the today, right? They seek what's going on in the moment. But let's do leaders. So what do leaders do? What are some words that come to mind with leaders?
They have a vision.
A vision. I love that. What do we got? Elevate. Inspire. Love inspire. One more. Influence. All right, there we go, right? So their eyes are on tomorrow as well as today, and we're guiding people through a journey. And that's what all of us here are doing, right? We're all leaders. So full transparency, Gabby, the RDO for Carolina's Dentist, she put together half this presentation. I don't even know how to work PowerPoint anymore. I don't even know how to open the damn thing, let alone like create graphics and stuff. Further transparency, like PowerPoint didn't totally go exactly as planned when we set it up today, but we're not going to tell Gabby that. We'll correct it for Richmond. So everything went perfectly for Gabby, okay? But we went ahead and asked the smartest thing in the entire world this very question, right? What is the difference between a manager and a leader? And in our eyes, the smartest thing in the world is ChatGPT, right? AI software. Everybody familiar with it? So we said, ChatGPT, what is the difference between a manager and a leader? And this is what it spit out, and honestly, Gabby and I thought it was perfect. Leadership is about inspiring and guiding people towards a shared vision, while management is about organizing and controlling resources to achieve specific goals. Thank you. That's Rosé, by the way. So this is the part that the graphics are a little messed up on, but that's okay. But I'm going to take you all on a little story about my practice, Carolina's Dentist Wilmington. So we just celebrated our 3-year anniversary in March. And so we're going to start back in March 2020. And we're going to go through some of the rough roads, some of the dark times in the office. And then we're going to hype it back up, and we'll bring it back to what we're doing today and what really empowered us to be successful. So let's start March 2020. So a little story about Carolina's Dentist back in March 2020. There were 2 very important team members that have been a part of Clifford and Cameron's even all the way back to Dental Works days, so pre-Carolina's Dentist. Their names were Farron and Suze. Many of you here might know them. Well, Farron and Suze were tasked with opening up our de novo projects. So they were going to be there, and they were there to help set up IT, HR, really marketing even at that point. And I remember the weeks leading up to even opening the practice, I was still in Rayford, working Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, commuting from Wilmington, 2 hours and 15 minutes. I would stay in a hotel Thursday night. That literally happened the week before I opened. So yeah, I had interviewed, some team members, but I wasn't focused on the practice yet at all. So that original day we opened up, March 1st, Farron and Suze quit. Never saw them again. They just literally left everything behind, and that was the end of it. I think they opened up like a cupcake shop or something. Either way, we opened up March 1st with a skeleton team. We had a practice manager. We had a front office team member, a dental hygienist, and a dental assistant, but nobody even knew each other. I mean, I had interviewed the practice manager and dental hygienist, but I didn't know who my dental assistant was going to be or who my front office team member was, and we had a schedule. I mean, it wasn't busy, but we were open, and nobody had met each other. So imagine 6:45, you walk into that morning huddle, and you're just introducing everybody, and then we're going to go see patients right then and there. So it was an interesting start. And then does everybody remember what happened in March 2020? Yeah. So COVID shut us down 9 days later. All right, so everybody gets all hyped up, everybody's motivated. We're gonna open up this new practice. It's so beautiful. For those of you who've seen Carolina's dentist offices, they are sexy, right? So we then ended up closing down, obviously, furlough everybody but the practice manager and myself, but we reopened in July. The issue is when we reopened, that new car smell was gone, right? The morale was poor, the team was disengaged, they didn't really want to be back at all. And so what's my role, right? I'm a leader, so I need to start inspiring and leading the team, which if you knew me back then, consisted of sitting in the front office, listening to every phone call, and providing immediate constructive criticism. I was micromanaging every little detail of the office, and my team could really feel that heat and pressure. And so they were pretty upset and obviously not very motivated or inspired at all. I was doing what a manager does and not what a leader should do. Fortunately, some way, somehow, that same team stays in place all the way through to March 2021. All right, so we make it several months. Things are going fine, not great, right? Team morale's poor. There's a lot of disputes and frustration. I can tell not everybody's happy to be there. I had been a part of a practice in Rayford that was really special, right? And you could tell Dr. Brad Langley was an excellent leader, and he was able to bring everybody together, and we were all sharing the same vision and goals. But that wasn't happening here. So at this point, we did add another treatment coordinator, another dental assistant, and then we had promoted a front office team member to assistant practice manager. But just a few short weeks later, this is what the team looked like. So we had had several resignations in a really short period of time. So for me, here's some adjectives to describe how I was feeling. I'm now starting to feel disengaged, definitely starting to feel depressed, and ultimately humiliated. I mean, I need to make these phone calls to upper level management and leadership and explain to them that half my team had walked out, basically. Little personal story. At this point in time, I'm going through some personal issues as well. I'm engaged, but that engagement is failing miserably, all right? Things aren't going well. We're supposed to get married like May 2020. COVID shuts that down. That leads to September 2021. But at this point, we recognize this isn't going to work, so we're going to separate. So then you start to ask yourself, was this all a big mistake? Was me moving from New York to North Carolina even a good idea? Was being a part of Carolina's Dentist a good idea? Was being a part of Lightwave the right move for me? And I'm really unsure at this point. You know, have any of you ever felt that way about your career path? That you need, yeah, right, we need to make a change. We're going to pivot out of this, right?
No.
So then a little bit deeper, have any of you ever felt like, you know, life really wasn't worth living anymore? That you were ready for this all to be over? So I'll tell you guys a little story about me. I remember like driving to work during this dark time, and I remember just like sitting in my car, I'm on the way in, this is the last place in the world I want to be at. And I'm like, what if I just take that steering wheel and just like jerk it to the right a little bit? Maybe I'll just like go off the road, and then I won't have to be here anymore. I won't have to go into the office and face all these problems. All right, this is just miserable time for me. Until two pivotal moments happened in my practice. One personally and one professionally. So personally, I had shared with you, I was going through a breakup. It wasn't like a bad breakup or anything, right? We're friends, so we're still living together. But my ex decided she's gonna leave and spend some time with friends for the weekend. So I am just gonna sit at home. At this point, I don't really have a lot of friends in Wilmington. I was focused on work. My friends were based through my ex, so you know she's off doing her thing. So I sit at home for 72 straight hours, not a single phone call, not a single text. Nobody's checking up on me. You know, I'm alone by myself with nothing to do. Until that Sunday, it's like something hit me. It's like the pity train is coming to an end, and it's time to hop off. You got to get your shit together, man. All right? Then something professionally, the other pivotal moment happened. I told you that my lead dental assistant had decided she was going to depart, but I still had my my newest hired dental assistant there, which is Christy sitting right here. And so for those of you that don't know Christy, she's a pretty emotional girl, right? She wears her heart on her sleeve. And I remember approaching her in sterilization, and she had just found out the news. And I said, Christy, how you doing? Sobbing, just all out, bawling her eyes out. So for the first time in my professional career, it's like that light bulb clicks. It's time to become a leader. So I walk up and I console Christy. I give her a huge hug. And we've shared many a hug since then. Surprise. But I console Christy and I say, Christy, I need you to believe in me. And Christy looked right up at me and said, I do believe in you, Doc. And it was like in that moment I realized I was here for something bigger than just like being a dentist, doing production, right? I was here to inspire a team, to lead a team out of this hole into a successful practice, which is where we'll go from here. So like none of that negative energy, right? Let's turn this shit around. All right, let's talk about the good parts of my practice over the course of the last few years. So I'm going to walk you all through the 4 key investments and times that I did to unfudge my practice. There you go, Justin. So the first big investment I made was I started finding the right people. The next investment I made was I found the right associate. The third big investment I made was in building relationships within Lightwave. And the last big investment I made was in practice differentiators. And we'll go through a series of those, all right? So let's talk about finding the right people. When I had my previous practice manager, she was big on resumes and experience. It meant the world to her because she had that under her belt. We hired her because she had years of experience in healthcare management. She had managed a big dental group as well, and she was literally hired just to supervise me. Right? She was meant to be the mother in the practice. But we didn't really align with our views on what right people were, and that was pretty impactful. We refer to this as a renaissance movement in our practice, out with the old, in with the new. And it started with Kayla, who's now our hygiene lead, and she's in the back right now. So I remember when we interviewed Kayla, we also interviewed some more hygienists, but for me, I just felt this immediate connection with Kayla. But during her interview, she was so loud. I mean, like you could hear her, you'll probably hear her laugh hopefully here in a minute if I get her going. She's loud and she projected, and she was the most inexperienced of the hygienists we had, right? But, when Tracy and I, my previous practice manager, met to discuss who we were going to choose to hire, she said, if you hire Kayla, I'm never going to trust you again. Well, look how that worked out. So Kayla is now our hygiene lead, and Kayla is an exceptional clinician. She really embellishes that relationship-based core value that we have at Carolina's Dentist, and it's made such an impact on our practice. She brings funergy that we just simply lacked for a really long time in my practice. The second big hire we made was Jonathan. Yeah, baby. So Jonathan at the time, I'd worked with him briefly in another office, but Jonathan at the time was managing a restaurant, right? So he had a little bit of front office experience at another practice, and he applied for the front office position at our office. He was going to use it as a secondary job for some secondary income. And when Bonnie and I met with him, let me pause real quick. I apologize. I wanted to share with you all that all of these hires I'm going to show you, I was adamantly advised against doing. Right? I shared with you how I was advised against Kayla. I was also advised against hiring Jonathan. I mean, we knew he'd be good at front office, but we didn't think he would be a practice manager. Well, I did, actually. We were so cohesive in that interview. I could just sense how self-driven and growth-oriented he is. Again, some core values of Carolina's Dentist. Probably the main part I remember from the interview is I asked him, Jonathan, what is the last song you played on Spotify? And I hope you all were there for karaoke last night because it was All Too Well by Taylor Swift. I was like, yeah, sign him up. Let's go. We'll be great. And Jonathan and I have been, that cohesive, visionary integrator role that we at Carolina's Dentist share. And it's obviously been very impactful, and Jonathan's been an extremely successful practice manager. So the last big hire was Justice. Again, another audience member here. So when we interviewed Justice, she again had like basically no experience in dental. She was working at this other practice down the road. Little story about that. We had 5 team members come from one office down the road in a matter of a couple months. I started referring to them as the rescue dogs because these girls were a part of a really bad culture environment, providing bad patient experiences, and really weren't feeling that motivation and drive. They weren't being led properly. So it started with one, and then she said, I think I got someone else, and then another, and before you know it, we had inherited 5 core team members. I'll also share with you the most important part of this slide is my office has had no turnover in 2 years. So next is choosing the right associate. Now, how many of you doctors, managers in the audience have had some anxiety, some fear, stress about hiring an associate, right? It's a pretty rough time. Well, I was smarter than all of you. I just went ahead and cloned myself. How are we doing on time, Lourdes? We're good? Oh, okay. So when you think of an associate in your practice, right, you're thinking of bringing somebody in that may have more experience, may do different procedures than you do in your practice, right? They might bring something new to the table. No, I strongly disagree. I wanted to find another right person. I wanted a culture fit, and I wanted to find someone that would adhere to our core values. So Gabby just texted me, how did it go? Does anybody want to text her and let her know?
I already texted her.
Okay. Like you think maybe don't text the guy presenting? Like she's on vacation, but she's in the same time zone.
I think John texted that you're managing this presentation.
Nice. So Andrew at the time was working at a practice in Michigan, and I would FaceTime him. And this guy was miserable. I mean, if you know Andrew, like he's just not a miserable person, but he was a part of a poor culture and micromanaged practice, and he wasn't able to really do what he couldn't excel. All right. So I made a promise to Andrew on our initial phone conversations and when he visited. I said, Andrew, I'm going to give you a mentorship promise, that you were overpromised and underdelivered on, and I'm gonna deliver that for you here, okay? So when Andrew first joined the practice, I spent the first 90 days in the practice. I didn't leave. All right, I was there 5 days a week, 12 hours a day, side by side with Andrew. We reviewed every x-ray, every treatment plan. I showed him, my way of approaching dentistry. Andrew had really never done a root canal. He had never placed an implant. And his view on dentistry was what we call like quadrant-based or, tooth by tooth. I refer to it as tunnel vision now. Right? He was focusing on only one tooth at a time rather than comprehensive dentistry that us at Carolina's dentists love to consider the super GP model, right? So I can now report that, Andrew does molar retreats now, right? I mean, that boy's slam dunking implants all over the place. And that's not really, because of me at all. Andrew is literally one of the most skilled dentists at Lightwave, okay? He has hand skills that I could never even imagine doing. His relationship with patients, his relationship with our team goes above and beyond any of my expectations. So really, I got very fortunate with Andrew. My point is here, investing in your associate, that appropriate time, that mentorship, delivering on that is so crucial for the success. And we should be anxious about hiring an associate, right? But we need to be investing that time. Andre's in here. We talk about PDPs, right? 30-day, 60-day, 90-day. Sorry, Andre, it's every day. All right, every day we need to be investing our time into these associates if we want them to be proven doctors, okay? Oh, yeah, let's not forget to mention that Andrew also won New Doctor of the Year at Lightwave launch last year. All right, this is a cool slide. So, when we first partnered with Lightwave, I remember one of our first shareholder meetings was in Wilmington, right? It's like the only place that would allow us to be during COVID. What was the date on that, Justin? You remember?
Was it like November
2020?
2020?
Yeah, wow. So when I used to be involved professionally, particularly with Lightwave, I would spend almost all my time within the Carolinas dentist family, right? I didn't really go out and meet and get to know other Lightwave doctors. It wasn't important to me. I didn't really see the point in it at all, right? They're up in Virginia. I'm down here doing my thing. I don't need them. I'll be good down here. And then I met Dr. Valerie Wu and Dr. Courtney Ulrich. And I met them on the yacht that we took out that day for our shareholder meeting. It was like the best thing we had done in months because we were all stuck in COVID, right? But their enthusiasm was contagious, and I just felt so connected with them. And it really inspired me to start, getting involved in relationships within Lightwave. And I remain extremely close friends with these two. I mean, I talk to them probably weekly. Cool story, my sister Kendall is a fourth year at ECU in dental school. And her key mentor is Dr. Valerie Wu because she's going to be pursuing pediatrics. She's actually gone up to Virginia twice now for some different shadowing sessions and has developed an incredible bond with Valerie. And I really can't thank her enough for that. The second big relationship that I developed was with Gladwell Orthodontics. When we were first introduced to SPP, they came in for training, and that was great, right? Our team was really hyped, it was exciting, but I realized that if we were gonna become elite Invisalign providers, if we were really gonna take that next step in Invisalign production and really turn into an orthodontic practice, I was gonna need to learn from the best of the best. So Dr. Lefebvre and I started traveling up to Raleigh every other week. I would cut my schedule in half, and I would just roll up to Raleigh and sit side by side with Dr. Petritz. And I would do, an 8-hour shift with him. We'd see patients together. We reviewed thousands of clin checks, and I really got to understand the Gladwell model. I mean, I was sitting side by side with their insurance team. I wanted to know the ins and outs of Gladwell Orthodontics. And then I was able to bring that back to our practice, and as a result, y'all may have noticed that we just won our second back-to-back SPP March Madness. And shout out to Justice for making that happen, of course. But how many of you have traveled outside of your region to go visit some other practices? Has anybody done that yet? Yeah, I encourage you to do it. It's not just for our doctors, right? Our management teams can do this. Justice has visited with Gladwell Orthodontics, and I'm sure many other team members will. Let's be inviting, all right? Let's work with each other, share best practices, but not just remotely, right? Over those stupid Teams calls. Like, let's go in person, all right? Thanks, Lourdes. The last relationship, this is a little bit more recent. I wanted to start my 3D printing journey. A few months ago, I recognized, the value that could have in the practice. And Gabby, our RDO, told me, you need to reach out to Dr. Ruparelli up in Virginia. This guy's a badass. I was like, shit, this guy sounds a little intimidating, but all right, let me give him a shout. He could not have been more receptive to my phone calls and texts. As a matter of fact, Dr. Ruparelli, he has gone well above and beyond to bring 3D printing into my practice and really show me, his ways of doing things. He's became an incredible mentor. I talk with him pretty routinely still. And now, I'll share with you on the next slide, he helped me create that practice differentiator that'll bring our practice to even the next level. So if anybody ever has anything, Dr. Ruparelli is a great resource as well. All right, let's dive into some practice differentiators. All right, so I'm going to share with you really the core, outside of the people, outside of the doctors, and outside of what I've learned throughout Lightwave. These are the key things that my practice does now that I think make us elite within our region, really, okay? The first is the CEREC. So most of you should know what a CEREC is, right? Same-day crowns. But in all honesty, I just think not all of our practices really use it to their full potential, all right? CEREC is an incredible tool, not only to be able to do a crown the same day, but to show off to our patients, right? Like, they love seeing this stuff. One of the core production components of our practice is what we call an RBC, root canal buildup crown, baby, all day, every day, churning and burning. But we use our CEREC for even more than just crowns, right? We're using it for bridges, implant restorations. We're doing anterior aesthetic cases, sometimes same day, but always in-house. Our lab budget is $0, guys. We don't send anything out. Everything stays in-house. And we love doing aesthetic cases. There's nothing more rewarding than when a patient walks in with a front tooth that's broken or is going to need ceramic work, and you can custom stain and glaze that same day. Andrew is elite at that, like literally one of the best of the best. The next big investment, right? iTeros. All of you know what iTero is, and probably all of your offices have them. But how many of you are scanning every patient, every visit, no exception? Let's just repeat that. Every patient, every visit, no exception. Andre, you like this shit, baby? One more time, right? Every patient, every visit, no exception, all right? This took my practice through the roof, baby. We now have 3 iTeros, just ordered a 4th. Guys, we only have 4 hygienists and 2 doctors, right? We use and abuse these tools. We don't even use it from a restorative standpoint. It is simply it's a case acceptance tool. It's a hygiene tool. Our hygienists love it. I know y'all are stressing like, my hygienists don't like scanning. Well, I'm sure, it's tough to make big changes like that. I hear you. Reach out to me. I have some advice. But the reality is our hygienists love it too. I mean, for them to be able to sit down and show what periodontal disease looks like on a 3D scanner is huge. In addition, our patients literally will write reviews like, this place looks like a freaking spaceship in here with all this technology. And the iTero's in their hygiene room. It's a part of their first visit. The next is a 3D printer. So again, Dr. Ruparelia, huge influence here. But what our practice is doing now with the 3D printer is like the absolute surface. All right. Today, we're printing all of our dentures in-house, right? So our lab bill, again, is $0. To print a denture costs like $3, maybe even less. And Maddie here, our dental assistant, her self-driven nature, she took on 3D printing entirely by herself, right? I never asked her. We never talked about it. One day, she just came up the same way Justice did about Invisalign and said, I want to take on the 3D printing journey. And so far, she has done everything. I don't even know how to turn the damn thing on. But Maddie does. Hell yeah. But the future of the 3D printer is far above and beyond what we're doing now. Like I said, we should be printing crowns, veneers. I'll be doing my first veneer case in a couple weeks. Right? These things cost pennies to print, and the restorations are beautiful. Super GP model. I wanted to throw this in here. I know we have a lot of, Lightwave has a lot of practices that are extremely successful, but I think kind of like something to take it up a notch for us is, we keep everything in-house for the most part, very few referrals. One of the biggest, practice differentiators, again, is root canals. If you and your associates aren't doing root canals, for me, I think it entirely built my practice. When you have patients walking in pain and you can provide same-day service for them, they're going to tell all of their friends, and then their friends are going to tell all of their friends. You'd be surprised, how big of a wave that makes. Word gets out quickly. We really believe at Carolina's Dentists in the Super GP model and keeping everything in-house, which is why we also offer exceptional continuing education that we all should be taking advantage of. Right? That endo CE that's out right now, that's huge, guys. Like, let's roll with that. Encourage your associates and docs to take on this continuing ed. Oh, shit. Can anybody guess what the last practice differentiator in our practice is? Yeah. This is kind of the part, I think Jonathan's supposed to bring him in, but, here we are. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, there he is. Atta boy. Hey, bud. That's okay. No. Down. Off.
Come on.
Hey.
Don't leave me with Jonathan again.
Hey, look. There you go. You got him. You can take him.
Thank you.
That'll be good. Of course, he's excited to be here. I'll tell you, Wayne does amazing in the office. He doesn't really get rowdy like this at all. We had the fire alarm. There's also 100 people here, right?
Nope.
He's amazing. Part Probably the biggest thing, what y'all have probably seen about Wayne is his ability to just interact with patients. So Wayne will sit on patients' laps in a cuddle position for like 2 to 3 hours at a time. Like imagine a root canal, you're already miserable, scared, and Wayne's just gonna lay on your lap and console you. You really can't ask for anything more. On top of that, he's also been an incredible marketing strategy. I mean, we've had people travel from Charlotte, South Carolina, New York, just to visit and meet with Wayne and sit in our chair. People just absolutely adore and love him. It's been obviously a great practice differentiator for us. Not to mention the impact he has on the team, right? Like imagine going to work every day and you have a facility dog there. When you're having a bad day, take some Wayne time. Why not, right? Wayne's always there for us.
I broke my wrist, y'all, at work, like 2 Tuesdays ago, and I swear Wayne was right there to comfort me in the floor. Dr. Bodah
Yeah,
was
baby.
laughing
Yeah, a little bit.
at me. But Wayne was right there at our rescue.
Wayne knows. Wayne can sense anxiety. So if he's coming up to you, you gotta get your shit in check. So Gabby made me put this in here, right? Year over year growth. We're doing very well. We're looking forward to 2023 and seeing our budget numbers there. Like, things are going very well in the practice, obviously. And so Gabby wanted to share some numbers. Big whoop. Hey guys.
Is that with 10 doctors, 11 doctors?
Yeah. So I wanted to share this quote. This is from the book, Go Yourself. Our biggest successes are born out of discomfort, uncertainty, and risk. I've obviously shared some personal stories about some discomfort I've had, some uncertainty, but I also shared with you some major risks I took, right? All those practice differentiators, in a sense, are risky, and I felt it was risky even to stay in Wilmington and devote my time to this practice. But I'll leave y'all with one message. Y'all wouldn't be here today, your practices wouldn't be here today if you weren't exceptional, right? Being a part of Lightwave means you're exceptional. But y'all here today in this room wouldn't be here if you weren't extraordinary leaders. So my final message really is let's take advantage of weekends like this, and let's continue to develop and enrich what I consider to already be the best in class dental leadership organization. Thank you.